It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yep, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, August 19th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun, clouds today, high 76. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 68. And then Wednesday, we're going to see rain most of the day, high 75. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 60, partly cloudy in Peekskill up in Westchester County. It's 64 and partly cloudy in Lodi over in New Jersey. And it's 63 and mostly clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
There's been another Legionnaires' death in Harlem. Is the war in Ukraine really almost over? A new mayoral poll is good news for one candidate. There's actual water coming out of faucets in North Haledon, New Jersey. A local Little League team could be World Series champs. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. There is growing concern about Hurricane Erin, not so much smacking into us, but what it's doing at beaches. There's growing concern at the Jersey Shore, which is already producing dangerous waves, life-threatening rip currents. This follows those 2 drownings at the shore last week, a 13-year-old girl in Belmar and a 31-year-old man in Seaside Heights.
People are still coming down. People with small children are coming down, and this is not safe conditions for anybody to be in the water right now.
Yeah, that's Bob Selfridge, who heads the Barnegat Light Beach Patrol. He's actually discouraging people from heading to the Jersey Shore this week to go swimming. He says if you do, of course, do it when lifeguards are on duty. Now, I should point out, those 2 drownings that took place last week, they were after lifeguards were off duty. Meanwhile, Erin is now a Category 3 hurricane as it moves to the east of the Bahamas.
As of Monday night, the storm had maximum sustained winds of 125 miles per hour. Forecasters say Hurricane Erin is expected to bring high surf and possible tropical storm conditions to part of the Bahamas and the U.S. Atlantic coast. North Carolina's Outer Banks could see coastal flooding and tropical storm conditions late Wednesday. I'm Mark Mayfield.
5:02 down to Washington. Did you watch any of this, what was going on between President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky? The president says it was a very successful meeting as they try to broker a deal to end the Ukraine-Russia war. It comes, of course, after the president met with President Putin, the Russian president, in Alaska on Friday. Yesterday, the President Trump had a one-on-one meeting with President Zelensky, who agreed with President Trump that they had a very good conversation.
Important discussions as we work to end the killing and stop the war in Ukraine. We're all working for the same goal, very simple goal. We want to stop the killing, get this settled.
Now, after that meeting, they had a second meeting with the U.S. European allies who came to the White House, the head of NATO, all to talk about ending the war in Ukraine. President Trump, President Zelensky says any deal would involve some sort of American security for Ukraine to head off any more Russia aggression.
I'm sure we're going to have a solid meeting, good meeting, maybe a great meeting, and we're going to try and work out a trilat after that and see if we can get it finished. Put this to sleep, because this is not since the Second World War has there been anything like this.
The president's talking about a 3-way meeting that would include himself, Zelensky, and President Putin.
You know, in the 6 or so wars that we stopped, we haven't had a ceasefire. And so I don't know that it's necessary. You can do it through the war. But it would be, I like the ceasefire from another standpoint. You immediately stop the killing. President
Zelensky, of course, taking part in this press conference after the meeting, had positive things to say about President Trump. He also thanks those European leaders for coming to the White House.
I think that we had constructive, specific meeting, and I'm very thankful to all the leaders who are here, and you help a lot, and so we're happy that we have such big unity today.
Now, there are some naysayers, and they include French President Emmanuel Macron, who does not believe Russian President Vladimir Putin is really ready for peace in Ukraine.
Speaking to NBC News after his trip to Washington, D.C. for a high-stakes White House meeting, Macron said when he looks at the situation and the facts, he doesn't see Putin willing to get peace. He went on to say he may be too pessimistic and that the optimism of your president is to be taken seriously. So if he considers he can get a deal done, this is great news, and and we have to do whatever we can to have a great deal. President Trump says he's putting things in play for a meeting between Ukrainian President Zelensky and Putin after Zelensky and European leaders were at the White House Monday. Zelensky said he had a productive meeting with President Trump. I'm Mark Mayfield.
5:05 from Washington. Let's bring it back to Brooklyn. Police now saying 2 of those 3 who were killed in Sunday's nightclub mass shooting in Crown Heights were the gunmen themselves. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch says 19-year-old Marvin St. Louis and 35-year-old Jamel Childs approached each other before bullets started flying and both were killed.
Mr. St. Louis approached Mr. Childs and opened fire. Mr. Childs returned fire and 2 other gunmen immediately joined. We believe that there were 4 shooters in total.
27-year-old Amadou Diallo was also killed. He was an innocent bystander. Police still looking for 2 other gunmen. Meanwhile, the number of people shot at the Taste of City Lounge has risen to 14 after 2 more actually checked themselves into hospitals on their own with bullet wounds. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch says detectives, of course, still searching for those other 2.
So to be clear, 2 of the 3 deceased are the shooters involved in the incident.
5:06. A 5th person has now died from Legionnaire's disease in Harlem.
City health officials announcing the 5th death on Monday. There have been a total of 108 cases, all in Harlem, since the outbreak began July 26th. 14 people are currently hospitalized with the bacterial pneumonia. Officials say they've linked the outbreak to cooling towers and announced the final of 12 towers to test positive for the bacteria that causes the disease have been disinfected. Officials continue to urge people in Harlem with flu-like symptoms to get medical attention. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
WABC News Time 5:08. The MTA has approved a key $2 billion contract for the second phase of the 2nd Avenue subway.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
The contract will pay for the creation of tunnels and 2 new Harlem subway stations as part of the process of extending the 2nd Avenue subway into East Harlem. Phase 2 is adding 3 new Q line stations at 106th, 116th, and 125th Streets. That's scheduled to be completed in the year 2032. The second of 4 construction contracts for the Q train extension. Governor Hochul says this will bring transit equity to Harlem. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Let's head over to Utah, where we're learning more information on 2 Utah police officers who were shot dead on Sunday night. A 3rd sheriff's deputy was shot but is expected to survive. They were all responding to a domestic disturbance late Sunday night. Here's the local police chief in Brigham, where the bullets were fired.
We've talked a little bit about community and the tight-knit group here. I think those acquaintances and relationships probably played a key role into that, into getting him to put down his weapons and surrender.
Yeah, they were able to get the gunmen to surrender. They were there for that domestic violence call. This is a town about 70 miles north of Salt Lake City. So the gunmen's in custody, a sheriff's deputy and a canine who were also shot and injured inside a vehicle. They're expected to survive.
It's just a tragedy. It affects the entire state, but most importantly, you know, the Tremont and Garland Police Department. That's why we're here trying to do what we can to assist them. After firing upon these officers and police service dog, the suspect was convinced to put down his weapon by bystanders, and he was immediately taken into custody by additional responding officers.
5:10, Air Canada has been forced to ground its fleet after flight attendants defied a government order to return to work. Correspondent Sam Brock reports those flight attendants walked off the job. It was early Saturday.
Air Canada and the union have been negotiating for months. The main point of contention for the flight attendants, they're only paid while the plane is moving and not before or in between flights.
So Air Canada had planned to resume limited service on Sunday, but were forced to press pause on the plan. Industry analysts say about 100,000 people have already seen their flights canceled worldwide.
Air Canada says it will offer impacted customers refunds and credits or try to rebook them on another carrier, but admits that may be difficult because capacity is currently limited due to the peak summer travel season.
Yeah, can you imagine? You save all summer, all year for a summer vacation and it gets canceled.
The status of Air Canada's flight schedule is still up in the air amid an historic flight attendant strike. The airline, which operates roughly 700 flights a day, halted all operations Saturday, leaving an estimated 100,000 travelers with nowhere to go.
Yeah, one of those travelers was Juan Thibodeau. Says she booked a flight for her son's birthday, but that's been canceled now.
And when we looked for another airline, the price was thousands of dollars more than what we paid.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of those stories over the last 48 hours. 5/11, an investigation underway after 2 American Carnival Cruise Line passengers died in separate incidents in the Bahamas. Jesse Kirsch has more.
Investigators are describing both events as drowning incidents. First, police say late Friday morning, a 79-year-old man became unresponsive while snorkeling at a beach. Then that afternoon, investigators say a 74-year-old woman who sailed on a different ship became unresponsive while swimming in a pool.
The apparent drownings happened Friday at Celebration Key. That's a private destination for Carnival guests on the south side of the Grand Bahama. The Royal Bahamas Police Force says it was notified about the drownings in a span of less than 3 hours. Elsewhere in the Bahamas, another American was severely injured in a shark attack while spearfishing on Sunday.
Both times, a lifeguard gave assistance and CPR was administered, according to police. Celebration Key on Grand Bahama Island has only been open for weeks. In a statement, Carnival writing, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the guests and their families, and our care team is providing assistance." Now, investigators say autopsies will be performed on both victims to help determine their exact causes of death.
5:12, let's go overseas in the Middle East as protesters continue to take the streets in Israel. The military's approved plans for the seizure of Gaza City. Those protesters upset about that plan, calling for peace. Blake Sifton has more from Tel Aviv.
The military reportedly plans to mobilize tens of thousands of reserve soldiers to replace regular forces in various areas and also spearhead fighting in the city that is estimated to last for several weeks.
And what we've been watching over the last 48 hours or so, thousands of people fleeing Gaza City's southern Zaytun neighborhood, which has come under heavy bombardment by Israel ahead of this main offensive. More than 36 people arrested in Israel during widespread protests that began on Sunday that included a nationwide strike that was organized by groups representing hostage families.
Israeli military chief of staff Eyal Zamir approved operational plans for the capture of Gaza City as widespread protests were held across Israel, demanding that the government halt the offensive and end the war. Meanwhile, thousands of people have been fleeing Gaza City's southern Zaytun neighborhood amid heavy bombardment in recent days as Israeli forces carry out operations there ahead of the main offensive.
5:13 from Israel. Let's bring it back home down to Texas. Texas Democrats returning to the Lone Star State yesterday after breaking quorum to stop that Republican-led redistricting effort. Ken Martin, who heads the Democratic National Committee, praising those lawmakers.
It wasn't easy for them to leave home and endure attacks from the GOP, but I'm so grateful to every Texas Democrat.
Republicans happy that those Democrats are back. So Texas lawmakers back to work yesterday on a redistricting plan now that a group of Democrats have returned from a week-long quorum break.
A quorum is present, and it's time to resume the work of the people of Texas sent us here to do.
That's House Speaker Dustin Burrows. A redrawing of the state's congressional boundaries is seen as a way for the GOP to increase their power in Texas. But it's not the only issue lawmakers are trying to tackle in this special session. There's also flood relief and a plan to change the way Texas public school students are tested.
We are done waiting. We have a quorum. Now is the time for action. We will move quickly, and the schedule will be demanding until our work is complete.
Meanwhile, in California, lawmakers are expected to push for a redrawing of that state's congressional map in favor of Democrats as a way to counteract the changes that could be made in Texas. In a moment, we'll go down to Alligator Alcatraz. There's a big lawsuit against what's going on there. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning, Noam Layden. We'll start with a little look ahead here. No local baseball action last night. Very quiet night locally, but we're looking ahead to the opener of 3-game sets here midweek. 3-game sets for both of our local squads and Mets. They're going to be out in our nation's capital against the Nationals. David Peterson will get the start tonight in the opener for a 6:45 p.m. first pitch heading in the Mets. It's 5.5 games back of Philadelphia for first place in the division and just a game up on the Reds for the third and final NL wildcard spot following Cincinnati's win over the Angels last night. And tonight at 7:35 p.m., the Yankees, they're down in Tampa against the Rays for the opener of a 3-game set. Carlos Rodon will get the start there, and heading in, the Yankees are now tied with Boston for second place in the division, 5 games back of the first place Toronto Blue Jays. And we'll get to this news today. Wanted to get to it yesterday, but it was really just tying my brain in a knot here. And Noam Lit. And MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred floated the possibility of breaking up the American and National Leagues and realigning teams based on geography. Manfred appeared on ESPN's broadcast of the Little League Classic from Williamsport over the weekend, speaking on a possible expansion in the near future as well. Manfred said that he hoped to have 2 teams picked out before he retires in 2029. MLB believes that Nashville, Tennessee, and Salt Lake City could be the next expansion cities. It's unclear how his realignment would look, though, with the idea being floated of doing away with the American and National Leagues and instead implementing Eastern and Western conferences like the NBA and the NHL. The Eastern Conference would consist of the East Division, North Division, the Mid-Atlantic Division, and the Southeast Division, while the Western Conference would consist of the Midwest Division, the Southwest Division, Pacific Coast Division, and the West Division.
Now, why would they do this exactly?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, I thought there was a reason behind changing everything up.
Well, it's all money related, and you want to keep these guys on the field as much as you can if you're Rob Manfred, I should say, if you're the commissioner. And I think his biggest gripe is how far these guys have to travel in between games. And it's putting a strain on their bodies, and they're not able to stay on the field as long. And when you have stars sitting out because they're burned out or they're injured, then the league obviously isn't making as much money.
These people are sick.
Yeah, they are sick.
So hasn't it always been that way? Or is there something new?
It's always, literally always been that way for like hundreds of years.
Yeah, so baseball purists are not going to like this.
No, nobody
They
likes
don't like
it.
change at all.
No, there's already major backlash going against the commissioner here. And to be honest, yeah, I think it would take a lot of getting used to. You'd have to start watching this thing like you're watching the Little League World Series. You have these kids walk out in these uniforms made for their region, or, the region they're playing in for that Little League tournament. And now, it looks like Rob Manfred's trying to mirror that a bit. We'll see how it turns out. But I personally hope it does not happen.
These are stupid people.
They are very stupid people. I mean, I don't need the Mets in my division. Jeez. Anyway, that's your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick. 77.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid.
It's like he's tickling me. That's what he's doing. There you go. Back to you, Noam.
Thank you very much, Justin. Traffic, transit now. Here's Joe Nolan. Do you understand this whole change?
Why do we want to play the Phillies 7, 8, 10 times a day? No. Because it's supposed to be the Mets, the Phillies, the Red Sox, and the Yankees in a division.
See, now when you say it like that kind of sounds interesting to
me. It makes sense in a way,
yeah.
But still, it's just not. No, come on, stop. American League, National League, let's go.
I never understood like playing Toronto. That's kind of far away.
Yeah, I don't like it when they go play Los Angeles and the Giants and the Padres and all this, the Yankees. I mean, and I imagine Met fans are the same thing, going out to play, the Seattle Mariners or whatever they are out there. And, why? That's such a far trip for. Can you imagine being on the Miami Marlins and have to go play Seattle, go up in Seattle?
Right, makes no sense. Them? Maybe a Manfred man is onto something.
Hold on a second.
What's that?
You can't complain about baseball, Mets playing the Dodgers. It's a 3-game set, sometimes a 4-game set.
Right.
They get to check into the hotel on a Thursday. They don't leave. Imagine the NBA. You're the Knicks. You got to play the Lakers. You play one game. You got to fly to Los Angeles, play one game, and sometimes fly the next night to Boston. Baseball, don't forget, these are 3-day series.
Right, but
it's not that bad.
How about a division with all the local teams in it? I kind of think that's a good idea.
Well, that's what he's thinking.
Yeah,
you got
smart.
all the Northeast teams, the Red Sox, the Phillies, the Mets, and the Yankees.
Yeah.
But the travel, if you feel bad for the Mets when they play the Dodgers or the Yankees when they play the A's, look at the NHL and the NBA. It's one game. And they got to fly back and forth sometimes the very next day.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you're right.
Of course I'm right.
Maybe they need to change that up, too.
No, just leave everything alone, damn it. God.
Why in hockey? Why can't we play the Rangers 19 times a year? Why do we have to go to Calgary?
Who, the Devils?
Yeah, or vice versa, the Rangers. You know, why can't they play the Islanders 19 times
listen,
a year?
I think the Rangers should play 82 games, 41 against the Islanders and 41 against the Devils.
The fans would like that.
Let's go.
Yeah, the fans would love that. WABC News Time 521. A federal judge is hearing arguments regarding rules at the Everglades Detention Center that's been dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. Senior attorney Eunice Cho is representing the ACLU. She says they've gotten a partial victory so far.
The government has now designated an immigration court that will hear cases for people who are held at Alligator Alcatraz.
So the ACLU has requested this preliminary injunction against the facility. They argue that detainees are not being given proper access to their attorneys. But Florida says that's just not true. The judge has not ruled on the matter.
This is a victory for people held at the facility, a victory for civil rights, and a victory for immigrants all over the country. Their rights are being violated on a daily basis, and it is not acceptable for the government to say, we're going to fix this later.
Yeah, we'll wait to hear from the judge. 522, while we're in Florida, a Miami area mom suing Roblox, claiming the child gaming app enabled a pedophile to groom and rape her 11-year-old daughter. The National Center on Sexual Exploitation says there needs to be more laws in place to prevent stuff like this from happening.
Without litigation, the tobacco industry would still be telling you that their products are safe, and they would still be marketing to kids.
Florida's Attorney General sent a subpoena to Roblox demanding information on how it's marketed to kids and how it monitors chat rooms. Roblox claims it uses facial age estimation technology to verify the ages of all the users.
Big tech is not going to make their platform safe unless they're forced to through litigation or regulation. It is common knowledge that the greatest threats to our society and to our children are not physical harms, but cyber ones.
Yeah, we'll, of course, watch this case. It's an interesting one. Let's talk about another interesting case. A California parole board going to consider the fate of the Menendez brothers on Thursday.
The siblings, Lyle and Eric, have spent the past 30 years behind bars for the highly publicized murders of their parents in 1989. They were resentenced earlier this year to allow for the possibility of parole. The parole board will make a recommendation, but the ultimate authority rests in the hands of California Governor Gavin Newsom. I'm Monica Nelson.
It would be wild to see them freed, right? 523. President Trump moving to eliminate mail-in ballots ahead of the 2026 midterm elections.
Ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots.
The president sharing a post on Truth Social, which outlined his plan to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots. It targets what he calls highly inaccurate, very expensive, seriously controversial voting machines. Trump has previously claimed there's been widespread voter fraud involving the mail-in ballots and pledged to fight for what he called election integrity.
We, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country. All of the money they spend, it's approximately 10 times more expensive than paper ballots. And paper ballots are very sophisticated with the watermark paper and everything else.
And while we're talking ballots, Newsmax, the news agency, they've agreed to pay $67 million to settle a lawsuit with the Dominion voting system.
The cable channel is expected to pay Dominion $27 million this month and another $40 million in the next 2 years. The lawsuit was filed against Newsmax in 2021 and stems from claims that the 2020 election results were fraudulent. Fox News also settled with Dominion in a similar lawsuit, which saw a $787 million settlement in 2023. I'm Matt Mattinson.
WABC News Time 525. Swatch, the watch company, they're apologizing for ads that show a male Asian model pulling up and back on the corners of his eyes.
The Swiss watchmaker scrapped the ads after backlash and accusations of racism in China, as many said it looked like someone making a racist taunt about Asian eyes. The company said it has apologized for any distress or misunderstanding. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Down to Texas, there was a crazy fire yesterday in San Antonio. Firefighters battling a blaze that broke out at a warehouse by the airport that housed these giant tanks of dangerous chemicals.
There's 500 gallons of sodium hydroxide
and 500 gallons of hydrochloric acid.
Yeah, it was an airplane parts facility, and everybody made it out safely, so that's the good news. But they were trying to put this thing out because there was these big vats of hydrochloric acid.
The runoff is heavily diluted with water at this time, and the drainage of those chemicals is being controlled. We immediately called for a second alarm, and the hazmat team were out here rather quickly.
Yeah, it took them a while to douse this thing. The good news, again, nobody hurt, but now they're trying to figure out what started it all. Home builder confidence slipped in August due to weak demand for new single-family houses.
The National Association of Home Builders says sentiment in the market edged down 1 point from the month before. In further signs of a soft housing market, 37% of all builders reported cutting prices with an average price reduction of 5%. The use of sales incentives jumped to 66% in August, to its highest level in the post-COVID period. I'm Matt Mattinson.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, August 19th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds today, high 76. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 68. And then seems like Wednesday is going to be kind of a washout. Rain most of the day, high 75. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 60, partly cloudy in Peekskill up in Westchester County. 64, partly cloudy in Lodi over in New Jersey. And it's 65 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:39. New York City health officials announcing a 5th death yesterday in connection to the Legionnaires' disease outbreak in Harlem. The outbreak has now resulted in 108 cases, 5 deaths since it started just a number of weeks ago. 14 people still in the hospital. New York City Health Department saying this newly reported death had been under investigation for some time, and they say their team was able to confirm this death as part of the cluster. It comes after the final of 12 affected cooling towers in the outbreak area was cleaned out on Friday. So they think they have this under control, but there's still people sick, still people in the hospital.
Definitely concerning. If you're looking out for the people who you're concerned about, you check in on them.
So all 12 cooling towers in central Harlem that tested positive for live Legionella bacteria have been fully drained, cleaned, and disinfected. At least that's what the health department is telling us. And if that doesn't scare you enough, how about this? New Jersey health officials investigating a case of malaria in Morris County. And the person that has it did not travel overseas. So the New Jersey Department of Health is working with the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, to investigate this potential source of the infection. It's possible, they say, this Morris County resident was infected with malaria in New Jersey. Well, if they didn't go overseas, where else would they be infected? If confirmed, this would be the first known locally acquired case of malaria in New Jersey since 1991. Now, malaria, of course, is a mosquito-borne disease caused by a parasite transmitted by certain mosquitoes. And usually it's in tropical and subtropical countries, not New Jersey. But it's controlled. I mean, you don't have to die from it. It causes fevers, chills, headaches, muscle aches. It's not fun if you get it, but you can survive it. 5:41. Let's bring it back here into the city. Police questioning a man who left this suspicious object outside the NYPD Times Square police substation, then just walked away yesterday. The investigation prompted police to close 7th Avenue between 42nd and 44th Streets. The bomb squad determined the object was not a threat. The streets were reopened. Of course, tourists, other people around, just a little freaked out by this.
To be honest, there's a bit of anxiety. There's a little anxiousness of do I need to be careful? I've got young children, so my eyes are always looking around to ensure that our safety comes first.
It didn't take long for police to figure out who this was. 26-year-old Bronx man was picked up by detectives. He's been taken to the hospital for a psych evaluation. Detectives reviewing the object and the papers inside, but they say there was no obvious message or threat implied by the object, and there was nothing to the object at all. It wasn't dangerous in the end. 5:42. The NYPD believe a deadly mass shooting at that Brooklyn hookah lounge over the weekend stemmed from an argument between two men. Now, two of the gunmen are two of the three that were killed early Sunday morning. That's new information we did not have yesterday. And the number of people who were shot actually went up because some of these people ended up going to the hospital on their own and not through AMT. So at least 14 people were shot in the Taste of City Lounge on Franklin Avenue in Crown Heights about 3 a.m. Sunday. Police say 19-year-old Marvin St. Louis, 35-year-old Jamel Childs spoke briefly apparently in this lounge, and that's when they turned around and shot at each other. They were both killed along with an innocent bystander, 27-year-old Amadou Diallo. Officials believe Diallo had nothing to do with what was going on. Well, yesterday in Crown Heights, they held a vigil for all those impacted by the shooting.
So he was doing the delivery, DoorDash and Uber, gaining his life with honesty, without stealing nothing, no problem, never had any problem here.
That's a friend of Amadou Diallo. Video from inside shows just a crush of people inside this lounge running for their lives as those bullets flew. More from this vigil last night in Crown Heights.
May we teach our children, our youth, our future to love life over death.
Put down the guns. Yes. Recognize that violence is never the answer.
The mayor stopped by the vigil.
We don't manufacture guns in New York City. So why are they finding our way on the streets? Right. And we need help from the federal authorities.
And that violence that took place in Brooklyn, the violence that took place at Park Avenue, just a lot of shootings over the weekend. That was the big talk on the mayoral campaign trail yesterday. You had a record-breaking decline in violence in July. That's what City Hall and the mayor's office has been pushing for the last couple weeks. And so he didn't want to talk a lot about these shootings. He wanted to talk about the success the NYPD has had. Here was the mayor yesterday.
And a record-breaking decline in violence. Just July saw the lowest number of shooting incidents and shooting victims in recorded history. And the first 7 months of 2025 also marked the fewest shooting incidents.
Curtis Lewa, the Republican nominee challenging Mayor Adams, insisted he's the best candidate to restore law and order after that shooting at the Taste of City Lounge. The Guardian Angels founder sarcastically questioning the police commissioner's insistence that the gunfight was an anomaly. Here he was campaigning at the 23rd Street subway station yesterday.
An anomaly, right? 19 shootings, 3 dead, 5 slashings, 5 stabbings, inordinate number of crimes of late in the subway directed at women. And that's an anomaly. Jessica Tisch, you need to come into the subways and streets. You need to know what's going on in your city. It's not an anomaly.
An independent candidate, Andrew Cuomo, he went to Roosevelt Avenue in Jackson Heights, Queens yesterday to talk with business owners about problems with prostitution. Cuomo slamming Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee, for supporting legislation to decriminalize prostitution, and likened the Queens Assemblyman to former Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Mr. Mamdani says de Blasio was his favorite mayor. And if you listen to him and you look at his policies, he's going to be de Blasio 2.0. And I believe that's the last thing this city needs.
And we have a new poll out, and we'll get to that in just a moment. For first 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ellen.
Thank you, Noam. Late and quiet night locally last night, but we're looking ahead to the opener of 2 3-game sets here for our local ball clubs tonight. 6:45 p.m. first pitch out in our nation's capital between the Mets and the Nationals. David Peterson will get the start there, and heading in, the Mets sit 5.5 games back of Philadelphia for first place in the division and just a game up on the Reds for the third and final NL wildcard spot following Cincinnati's win over the Angels last night. And tonight at 7:35 p.m., that's your first pitch between the Yankees and the Rays down in Tampa. The opener of a 3-game set there. Carlos Rodon will get the start. Heading in, the Yankees are now tied with Boston for second place in the division, 5 games back of the first place Toronto Blue Jays. Other news out of the MLB, Commissioner Rob Manfred floated the possibility of breaking up the American National Leagues and realigning teams based on geography. Manfred appeared on ESPN's broadcast of the Little League Classic from Williamsport over the weekend, speaking on a possible expansion in the near future as well. Manfred said that he hoped to have 2 teams picked out before he retires in 2029. MLB believes that Nashville, Tennessee, and Salt Lake City could be the next expansion cities. It's unclear how his realignment would look, though, with the idea being floated of doing away with the American and National Leagues and instead implementing Eastern and Western conferences like the NBA and the NHL. The Eastern Conference would consist of the East Division, Boston, both New York teams, and Philadelphia. The North Division, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, and Toronto. Mid-Atlantic Division, Baltimore. The foreseeable expansion team, Pittsburgh and Washington. In the Southeast Division, Atlanta, Miami, the expansion team, and Tampa Bay, while the Western Conference would consist of the Midwest Division. That'll be both Chicago teams, Milwaukee and Minnesota. The Southwest Division, Houston, Kansas City, St. Louis, and Texas. Pacific Coast Division, Colorado, the Athletics, Seattle, and San Francisco. And the West Division, Arizona, both LA teams, and the San Diego Padres. You get all that? No, later.
It's a little confusing, but I think I got it.
Yeah, big shakeup coming.
Is there a test later? Or?
No test. I mean, maybe I'll draw something up for you, but you got enough on your plate.
I do.
That's your sports gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
5. The latest mayoral poll comes from Gotham Polling. It was taken on August 11th, and Zohran Mamdani continues to dominate, 42% of the vote. Second place is former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo at 23%. Curtis Lewa, the Republican nominee, comes at 17%. 9% for Mayor Adams, and nearly 8% still undecided. The poll reached 1,376 registered New York City voters and has a margin of error of plus or minus 3.2%. And while we're talking politics, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker trying to help his party navigate back to a day where they could win back the Senate or the House or maybe even the White House. And it seems like he's one of the people who wants to lead the pack. He's trying to egg on fellow Democrats to fight back and show voters what the party can do for them.
Time for us to have a lot of new leadership, new fighting, new people emerging in the Democratic Party that more and more are showing not just what we stand against, but what we stand for. I think we have a lot of problems right now with people trusting our party, and I think leaders should be less concerned about the party and more concerned with the people.
Yeah, Democrats trying to figure out who their leaders are. Is it Cory Booker? Is it somebody, California Governor Gavin Newsom?
Especially as we're at this generational mark where the last of the baby boomer leaders like Donald Trump are going to leave the stage. What does the next generation of leadership look like? Is it leadership that divides, or is it leadership that inspires us to understand that together we can create a nation that's more affordable, that keeps people safe, but also embraces the extraordinary technological changes that are coming?
And he's the first to admit Democrats have a long way to go in picking their next leaders. 5:51, over to New Jersey. So the water has been back on in North Haledon for a couple of days, but there was an issue with water pressure. Well, apparently that's back. So if you turn on your faucet in homes, this is what we're being told in North Haledon, is the water is coming out. This all started more than a week ago when a 140-year-old main just broke open and took a while to figure out what was wrong. And here are some of the workers from the Passaic Valley Water Commission. They spoke to News 12 yesterday trying to explain why it took so long to get the water flowing again.
And it turns out 2 of the mains had an interconnection that we did not know about on our plans. It wasn't shown on any plan. So when we found that out, we realized we had to isolate 2 lines, that it wasn't just one, the 24-inch and the 30-inch.
Yeah, so when they started to do this work, they opened up the pipes. They looked to see what was wrong. The information they had from maps and that kind of thing wasn't right. So they had a lot more work to do than they thought they did.
And finally put that into service last night, which made a real difference on really returning to normal operating pressure. We're still in a boil water for about half of Patterson and Prospect Park. Haledon and North Haledon are also still in a boil water, but I completely understand the frustration. We were frustrated by it as well.
Yeah, there was a lot of frustration, but customers still, some of them anyway, in these areas have boil water advisories, which means you should boil water for a minute or so for drinking, or before you drink it or cook with it. 5:53. While we're in New Jersey, the man convicted of murdering a New Jersey councilwoman back in 2023 sentenced to life in prison yesterday. It was back in June that a jury found Rashid Ali Bynum guilty of shooting and killing Eunice Drumfor 2 years ago in her car in Sayreville. So yesterday, they had the victim impact statements in court. Here was Eunice's sister, Priscilla, who tried to talk to Rashid, but Rashid would not give her any FaceTime, did not look at her.
Your mother should be disgraced that she brought you into this world. She needs to take you out of it. Since you want to look around, look at me when I talk to you.
Her family appealed to the judge for justice and why her killer should be put away for life, and the judge agreed. Here's more from, this was Eunice's husband.
I met my wife, Pastor Eunice. I call her my angel. I call her my love. I call her my heartbeat.
And before the judge made that decision yesterday, the lawyer for the Drumfor family wanted him to know how she was killed in cold blood.
15 rounds at point-blank range into a driver's side window of a completely defenseless woman who had nowhere to run and nowhere to hide because she was seatbelted into her driver's seat in her car.
Eunice and Rashid knew each other from church, but there was apparently no real relationship past that. The family, they applauded when the judge took Bynum out of court, or at least had the court officers take him out of court, and after he received that life sentences, and here they were outside of the courtroom.
We got a justice. I'm so happy, and I know Eunice is happy.
I lost a beautiful wife. It's really frustrating. I don't pray for anybody to go through what I'm going through.
Yeah. Unfortunately, from one tragedy to another, this is up in Westchester County. Police confirming now that the body that was found in a car on the Cross County Parkway on Sunday was 33-year-old Ariella Polanco. She is or was a big social media person. On Monday, her friends and family gathered outside of the Opus Lounge in Inwood, where she had worked, to remember her.
It is very unfortunate because she did everything for her kids. She's that person that walked in the room and made everybody smile.
You have to watch out. Something like this is happening. I don't know. It's just scary.
So she was found about 8 a.m. in Mount Vernon, dead behind the wheel of a car near the Broad Street on the Cross County Parkway. Westchester County Medical Examiner's Office has confirmed that she died as a result of gunshot wounds. Now, they say there's no threat to the community, but so far they have made no arrests, which tells us they have some information that you're just not sharing with us. World Series dreams of the Little League kind are being dreamed about right now in Fairfield, Connecticut.
The city's Fairfield National squad is now just one win away from the Final Four of the Little League World Series. Fairfield, representing the Metro region, crushed South Dakota 13-1 Monday. They'll take on the Mountain Region champs from Las Vegas Wednesday. They're the last two unbeaten American teams in Williamsport. The winning squad will secure a place in the U.S. Championship on Saturday. The losing team Wednesday will have another chance to qualify for the Final Four on Thursday. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, Connecticut.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?